At this time, where was your journey with God? Was it a pretty strong faith that you had?
I've always believed in God, but as far as how strong it was, I don't know if it was strong. I know I believed in miracles. I believed in healing.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a little bit shaky. At that time, our marriage was pretty shaky.
Yeah. Did you ever turn to God for anything difficult before this?
Yeah, our marriage. I received strength from all the prayers.
Right.
And there was not a moment where I was alone in the room.
Wow.
We had people come in and pray and speak life over Leo, and I drew from that. I found strength in that.
Were you yourself speaking life over
Absolutely,
Leo?
yeah. Praying over him,
Wow.
worshiping over his body.
Wow.
I couldn't sleep. That's all I did is...
Was that hard to do, keeping the faith alive, and also trying to mother, 3 children and keep them calm? And what would you be telling them?
They didn't know specifics about Leo for maybe 10 days. I didn't FaceTime. I was afraid of what they may see.
Of course.
All they knew is Daddy sleeping.
Leo, you have such an amazing, strong wife in the Lord. Like, you are such a gem, Oksana. Like, to go against, like, a lot of people who haven't been in that position, to go against all these doctors and say, like, no, there's going to be a breakthrough. That is the hardest. I'm telling you right now that a lot of people would cave, because that's such a strong opposition.
I do have to say that my family, our support people,
Yes.
I wanted to be able to do this without them. I don't know how people do it.
Yeah.
Without family, without friends, without the support system, without a community.
It's funny, when I went through a difficult time in my own life, I saw the family and the friends that were gathered around me, and at that time I didn't think that was the work of God. But I remember having a conversation with one friend who said, I'm so busy. I don't know why. Suddenly when I was washing dishes, and she had young kids at the time, she's like, I just thought of you, like out of the blue. And, all these things that people do, it's a showing of God's love. It's not, and I was like, wow, that really, it made such a difference, because I saw God's love through the people.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he, like, shielded you with his, like, team, his angels, and that's just amazing to me. It's like so heartwarming that he loves us that much. So after that, I'm looking at Leo now, and he's made like a full recovery. I can't believe it. I'm looking at him. You're not limping. You're not. I mean, your speech is great, and I mean.
Should I go get my wheelchair?
Yeah, make it dramatic for us. Did you continue praying after this?
Absolutely. And I still, to this day, there's still some areas where he hasn't received his full healing. We're still standing in faith.
Amazing. Yeah. We'll get all our audience to stand in faith as well. I want to go back to something you mentioned earlier. You said this made our marriage stronger. How so?
We were on rocky roads prior to the accident. He was going through a lot, dealing with a lot. I myself was too. And I don't think our marriage was fully on God. And there was talk about maybe separating. And
No more.
Yes,
it was difficult.
I see a very loving couple now.
I don't think we had that strong bond that we have now. I don't think we ever had that.
What changed? Was it something on your side, realizing how close you came to losing him?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and on Leo's side, you said you were like being reborn. Besides the walking again, learning how to talk again, was there something in you that changed? Hard to describe, right?
That too, and then growing up, people would say, "Why are you so hard-headed?" I have titanium plates in my head.
Yeah.
I have 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So
now that's actually you are hard-headed.
now I am hard-headed.
That's amazing.
But something I used to not do prior, I wouldn't think about stuff. I would just do.
Yeah.
Don't think it, just do. Now I think
Wow.
It's almost like growing up.
Wow.
I use my head now.
Yeah, because when you almost lose that part of your brain, you're like, I better use it, right? I better use it now.
Yeah.
Leo, when you woke up and you started remembering things, I mean, I don't know how your journey was with God prior to this, but were you conscious of how many prayers were going out to you? Like after you came to, did Oksana tell you, hey, look, like this
I didn't know how many, but I even shared this at my church maybe, but I remember at the hospital I had a weird feeling on my right side, not where my heart is.
Okay.
And I just knew those are prayers.
Wow.
I knew.
You called this an encounter with God earlier in the interview. What did you mean by that? How did you actually encounter him through this?
Just things that are important, things that are not important, maybe a change of perspective on life.
Right. Did you have to lean on God through your recovery?
Yeah, I always, I know there were plenty of prayers said for me, so anything I do or anything that might be difficult, I always do it in faith.
How did you start to, was it instant, like your marriage and everything, was it just an instant change that you saw after the event and after you came to, or did you guys have to kind of work on it together?
I think it's kind of day by day, it gets better and better, but I know in the last couple months I know she said it before, she's like, oh, you used to never do that.
Wow.
And I'd be like, you could have just hit me in the head one time.
That's all it took. Brain injury, right?
All it took, yeah.
Oksana, I know there are a lot of people now especially struggling with their marriage as well, and I know that's a big attack of the enemy is to separate families. That's what he loves to do. Is there something that you want to say, something that for a couple that's maybe thinking of separation and where you were, is there something profound that you realized that I thought, wow, man, I wish I knew this before?
I think it's loving despite. There's not one story that's the same, so maybe my story isn't the same. But I know that we are called to love like Christ loves.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
And it's stronger than anything.
Yeah.
And it might not happen overnight. It didn't happen overnight for us. But it was something that I prayed for years.
Wow.
And it was difficult.
Yeah. When I hear your story, this miracle isn't just physical. It literally, you were reborn. You encountered God. You encountered God as well, it looks like. You separately encountered God, put God in the middle of your marriage now, and came back together stronger than ever.
That's a bigger miracle for me.
Right? That I was just thinking that. I was like, that's an amazing miracle, this family that was about to be broken. And, which is what
the devil
wants.
Really hard.
Yeah, and sometimes, if he can't attack you from outside, he attacks you from the inside, right?
Absolutely.
To separate, and that's just, like, he loves it. He revels in that. And, I mean, God intervened and, grew you both and grew you together.
Yeah.
Would you say that the change was that now you put God in the center of your marriage and that's made a difference?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's such an amazing, amazing miracle. I'm speechless because we came here to get a physical miracle, which you did have.
Yeah.
But I'm now hearing of another miracle altogether and a family saved. I want to just go back to one last point. You mentioned that you went back to the doctors that didn't get to see the miracle. Did they have anything to say? Because this is pretty remarkable. I mean, you didn't wake up they said, if he doesn't wake up in 3 days, that's it. But you woke up much later.
Yeah, they initially did not see that miracle happen. He was wheeled out on a gurney, and he was still in a coma. I remember a moment where his doctor set me aside, where nobody was around me at that time, and he said, I know what your family wants. They're very vocal, they're very supportive. And I was a little bit shut down, very reserved, processing everything. And he said, I need to know what you want to do. And in that moment, I remembered a conversation that Leo and I had. A couple months prior to the accident, he said, if anything ever happens to me where I'm in a vegetation state, pull the cord. He said, don't let me go through that. And so that voice got loud.
And it's hard deciding something for somebody, right? Because you were in charge of this.
I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, you shouldn't have. That must have been so terrible.
But I remember in that moment, I knew that I was going full force with this.
That's where you turned. You said no.
No, that's why I said, no, we're not doing this. We're going full force. And that's when he said, well, we can't do anything else for you here.
That's the Holy Spirit right there.
And that same doctor got to see the miracle.
You went back. What did he say?
I don't think he had anything to say.
He must have been shocked.
Actually, the doctor that performed his surgery was shocked, and he said, I'm not a believer, but you are a miracle man.
Wow.
And so the doctor that performed the surgery got to see, because he was the one that put back the skull.
Oh my goodness.
So 2 surgeries, and so he got to see that miracle, and he wasn't expecting him to be talking, walking. He wasn't
None of the
expecting
doctors
anything.
were.
Yeah.
Basically, I think they just kind of written you off for dead and waited, right, for that day.
And so the second doctor, he says that he's very, very excited for him, that he never sees any patients come back with testimonies or anything along the lines, but he was very shooken.
Wow.
I don't think he's a believer, but I think he needed to see it.
Yeah. Why did you decide to go back? Was it for a testing, or you decided, you know what, the doctors need to see?
He needed to see it.
Wow.
I keep thinking that they have these conversations with many families.
Yeah, they do.
They don't give them a lot of hope. But I needed them to see that there is hope.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Leo, they called you a miracle man.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That should be your new name.
Yeah.
Leo Miracle Man. Once again, when things seem lost and it's been a week and the doctors are saying, hey, it doesn't look good, Leo hasn't woken up, God sends another arsenal. And this time it was in the form of a prayer cloth from Jonathan Shuttlesworth himself and Robert Massbach. And not long after this, he woke up from the coma, right? Which the doctors thought was impossible, of course. And I kept thinking of James 5:16, where it says the prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective. It reminds me of how big of a God we serve. Not only did Leo live, but God put this family back together. It went from, holding on by a thread to a family filled with love for each other and for God. The story of redemption and turning ashes to beauty is so reflective of the will of God for all of us. Yes, you too, all of us. This is what life and life in abundance looks like. It looks like complete freedom.